Good afternoon and welcome to the April 4th meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority. May we have the roll call, please?
Authority members Devine.
Here.
Garpetian.
Here.
Kelly.
Here.
Najarian.
Here.
Parazian.
Here.
Chair Sinanian.
Here. Next item.
Next item would be the report of the clerk. The agenda for the April 4th, 2017 regular meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority was posted on Thursday, March 30th, 2017 on the bulletin board outside City Hall. Mr. Chair and authority members, also you have one closed session item. It's 2A, conference with legal counsel pending litigation. Glendale Housing Authority et al. Versus Salim Karimi et al. Superior Court case number BC 460044. So at the conclusion of this meeting, you will recess to closed session.
Mr. City Attorney, do you expect to report out on this item?
We do anticipate reporting out on this item.
Very well. So let's move on to the next item.
Next item is approval of minutes.
I'll move for it.
I'll second.
Any objections? Without objections, the minutes are approved as submitted. Next item, please.
Next item is oral communication. However, no cards were submitted for this portion of the meeting.
Thank you. Authority member staff comments. I have a comment. It's election day in Glendale, local elections, the most important elections as far as I'm concerned. I want to encourage all of our viewers, all of our residents, those that are qualified to vote, which are the citizens who are registered to vote, to go out, make sure that they express their political will and choose those representatives that they think will best speak on their behalf on council. Those are my comments. I don't know if any other
Yeah,
members have.
I have a comment too. Since, as usual, I'm working on the polls. The poll I'm working at, it's Glendale Unified School District, and I should say that the turnout is very low. So we need to just ask everybody to get up and go to vote.
And I'll also add on to that indeed at my polling place, which is Brand Library, the turnout was extremely anemic. And if we look at the City of Los Angeles local elections that took place on March 7th, we had an ultimate outcome of about 9 to 11% of voters turning out to vote, which is extremely low. I hope that Glendale is way above that, and again, want to encourage everyone to come out and vote these important elections.
I just echo my colleagues' comments.
And do we have a number, Mr. Ochoa, for our residents, if they don't know where their polling place is, that they can call?
Yes,
Mr. Kasakian, sorry.
Madam Member, if anyone wishes to know where their polling location is, they can go to glendalevotes.org, glendalevotes.org, where they can access the Where's My Polling Place feature. It'll take them to the Los Angeles County centralized website where they'll put in their address, and it will tell them where their polling location is. In addition to that, they can call our office at 818-548-4000, the city clerk's office 818-548-4000, and someone can tell them. In fact, most city desks have been instructed to give this instruction to voters, and they can look it up themselves. One part of the confusion has been individuals who had the March 7th election confused with the Glendale election have used their sample ballot books from the March election to show up to a polling place that is no longer being used as a polling place for this election, and so that has caused a little bit of confusion. But overall, despite the slow turnout at the polls, we're hoping to have a bounce post-work pre-polls closing bump, if you will, before 8 p.m.
And also, I hope that the absentee ballot turnout somewhat compensates for the low poll turnout.
Mr. Chair, without getting into too much details about the elections operations, I will just tell you that so far our absentee ballot turnout has surpassed what it has been in the past. However, one of the things taken into consideration is that since the last city election, and because of, I think, the interest in the last presidential election, the number of registered voters in Glendale has increased significantly by at least 7,000 voters. Now, how many of those individuals will also turn out for a city election remains to be seen. We are hopeful. But so far, we have more people voting by mail in this election than we did 2 years ago in the city election.
Very good. Well, that's good
Okay.
news.
Yeah.
Yes, that is.
So if you don't mind, Mr. Clerk, we'll go through this probably one more time
And I
during
should
the
mention
evening
that,
session.
and I should mention again, while I have the opportunity, that the results this evening are not the final results. We will not have final results until actually April 21st.
Sure.
Okay. And
I was just requesting that in the evening we go through this process
Yes,
one more
yes,
time.
but-
Although it's only 2 hours before
Yeah.
a poll is closed, but still.
they'll
so-
still have time.
Probably.
I just want Mr. Pasakian to repeat that phone number was 548?
The city clerk's number is one that we hope is easy enough to remember, 818-548-4000.
4,000, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
And we do have, Mr. Chair, 2 members of the public who wish to actually speak on the oral communications portion, if you wish to reopen that.
Yes, I will reopen the oral communications for our visitors. And I only have one card. So
There may be one more coming.
Sure. But whenever Madam Noreen Karakhanyan is ready to speak, we'll have her. Hello.
I believe this is the housing meeting,
It is,
right?
indeed.
Yeah. I have some questions regarding...
Please state your name for the record.
I'm sorry. My name is Noreen
How much time
Karakhanyan.
do you think you need?
5 minutes
5 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes it is. Let's
or
do
10? How much time you
it.
got?
5. Let's do 5.
First, I would like to know, as a tenant, where can I find help for my rights as a tenant? If I have any issues or anything regarding with a management company or landlord, where can I find who can protect me as a tenant? Where can I find help as a tenant? And my question is also regarding Section 8, that I've been waiting for Section 8 17 years, and whenever we're asked, it's just never is, I never get a complete answer to where am I, or how long will it take, or I don't really see the move where I am, and when is it going to be. Like, I need to see the numbers at least. If I can see the names, I need to see the numbers. I want
Sorry, what names, what numbers? What are we referring to?
Section 8 waiting list. Section 8 for Glendale.
Okay. Okay, can someone take down these questions, because we have somebody from the housing department that can answer these questions right now?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, go ahead and go ahead with your questions.
Well, yeah, that's basically it. If you have any, I would like to get some help. I don't know who to ask, who's controlling, the list, or I need to see at least. It's not available for public for us to see where are we and how does it work. Let's say I'm right now at 300, my number. In 6 months, what it's going to be my number.
And they'll give you the answers right now.
Oh,
Peter Zovak is going to
perfect.
step up and answer those questions.
Thank
But
you.
as far as your first questions about help with the management company or the landlord, what kind of help are you referring to? Are you talking
Okay.
about uninhabitable conditions? Are you talking about them increasing your rent? Because those are two different.
Different-
one we can answer, the other we
I see.
really can't.
Well, the questions are the way the management company manages the property. It's kind of like, to me, it's not right. We were viewed not as human beings. They're just looking at us as ATM machines. That's all I feel. They all management company is the new. I think it's new. It's not a big company, and the way they manage the apartment. The old tenants, 14 units, are basically, they're not happy with it.
Okay.
Where can I find the answers to those questions, or who can, or even if I asked for the owner's name, we were not given the names. Is that right? I don't know.
Okay, we'll try to answer those questions. So how about we start with the city attorney, what it is that, I mean, if you have anything to contribute, or maybe we'll go to housing and they can respond. Why don't we do
Why don't we
that?
have Peter handle, and then I can add to whatever.
Supplement to the extent necessary. Mr. Zovak. I was much shorter than 5 minutes, so it's good.
Mr. Chair, members of the authority, what we can do is we can go back to the housing office with the resident and then speak to the two different questions that she has. Section 8 list, we could go ahead and work with her on that. With regards to the complaint regarding the management company, typically it's the Housing Rights Center, and they could advise them on what the law requires them to provide and not provide. In terms of courtesy and just the way that it's being managed, that may not be able to be regulated in any way. So it's just a matter of a relationship and trying to establish a better relationship. But the Rights Center could go ahead and give them information about that.
So with respect to the relationship between a tenant and the management company or the owner directly, that's a sort of a private set of rights that maybe an attorney or an entity like the Housing Rights Center can address or should be able to
Correct.
address.
As long as it's not an issue of habitability, which would be neighborhood services, and it's just this business relationship, they can speak to the Housing Rights Center about any possible remedies that might be available to them.
And that's why I raised the issue of habitability specifically, because if
Right.
it is, then we can address that.
Correct.
With respect to Section 8, I know that you can go back and deal with her case specifically, but from what I gather, the question that she's asking. So what is it, or what is it not that those individuals who are on our list of on our waiting list for Section 8 can have access to and cannot have access to? So what is it that they're allowed to see in terms of their status, and what is it they're not allowed to see?
They're allowed to check the status of their wait list application.
And what does that mean? Does it mean you have 4 points, you're one of a
They're
couple?
allowed to update the number of preferences that they have, update their information in terms of contact information. We tend to not provide a status
Number.
of where are you today, because that can change 1 hour from now.
So explain that. I mean, I know this, right? But I want you to publicly explain why the rankings vacillate from day to day and how that, because people, I mean, I've tried to also explain this as much as I could, but I think we need to constantly reinforce as to how the mechanism works.
So the waiting list, people are placed and they could account for preferences on the waiting list.
Right.
Single elderly, a resident of Glendale, and a number of different other preference points. So they can claim preference points on that. It's not a one-time claim. They're allowed to come in and say, when I applied for the program 17 years ago, I was not a senior. I am now a senior, so I want to claim that preference point.
Right.
So it's able to be updated throughout the life of the waiting list. So that's why the waiting list can always, and positions can always change from one day to the next, from one update to the next.
Right, and the change in a person's status on that waiting list impacts the status of the others because they may jump ahead or behind them.
Correct.
So bringing them up the list or down the list, therefore the vacillating numbers or the vacillating ranking on the list, correct?
Correct.
Yes, Mr.
So
Ajarian.
above all that, let's be clear, because it's not the easiest thing to follow, that there's a priority, a number. You're assigned a number when everybody came in to sign up for Section 8. And so you could be the newest comer into the 4-point list. There are people waiting there, maybe 17 years, but if you come in with that 4-point and your priority number is higher than that person who's been there for 17 years, you're ahead of them.
Correct.
It's not based on chronological time in the group of priority numbers, group of preference numbers.
Correct. So when two people in a bucket of 4 preference points are compared against each other and you try to determine who the next person to pull off the waiting list would be, it would be that person that has the higher priority number, the random number assigned to them as if they were pulled out of a drum. So if I was pulled out of the drum first and I qualify for 4 points, you were pulled second and you qualify for 4 points, I am always ahead of you, being that I was pulled ahead of you on the waiting list. So someone can move up a bucket from 4 to 5, but then their position in the 5 is determined by the order in which they were randomly assigned.
So while you're there, let's answer this question as well. Again, one more time. Folks come up and say, well, how is it that I've been on the waiting list for 16 years, I'm still waiting, and someone moved to this country 6 years ago and they have Section 8 today? My answer usually is, I'm willing to bet money that that person got on another city's waiting list, got Section 8, in that city, outside of Glendale, and ported into Glendale, which explains how they could appear in Glendale with a Section 8 status ahead of someone who's actually been on Glendale's waiting list for 16 years. Is that correct? Is there any other variation of that that could possibly cause a person who was moved to this country within less than 16 years, which is when our waiting list closed down, and somehow appear in Glendale with Section 8?
No, you can't magically appear on the waiting list and then be issued a voucher. So in most cases, it's really someone porting in from another agency and moving in, and then someone not knowing would think, oh, they're on Section 8.
Right.
They must have just recently received it from the city of Glendale, not knowing about the function of portability.
Thank you.
That tends to happen quite a bit.
I don't know how
actually.
many times I go through this exercise, and still that I hear that complaint, and sometimes people people insist, no, they're Glendale residents, and I say, yeah, well, now they're Glendale residents. Doesn't mean that they didn't import from another city, and to the moment they say, no, there's someone, there's corruption in Glendale, and I ask for a name, name a name, give me one name, give me something to work with.
Right.
And in 4 years, I have not heard that one magical name that I'm waiting for. Not
Exactly.
once.
Yes.
Any questions?
Because we're audited. I mean,
Correct.
our entire system is audited by the, is it the HUD, or is it a local audit that?
It's actually both. More so the controls are here locally. So every time someone is pulled, it's verified by another separate person. There's only certain people that have access to the system that sorts people per preferences. Only certain people are allowed to make changes. Only certain other people are allowed to pull from that list. Then someone else must approve that person who has been pulled. They'll look and see, well, where were they 1 month ago in position? And if they were the very next person, then you can easily say, okay, well, they logically are the next person pulled. If they were not the next person pulled, it's, well, then what had happened in the last month that moved them up to be the next person, and then we'll find someone has made an update to their application, which caused them to logically move up to their next rightful space, and then verify that they're the next correct person to be issued a voucher. So there are checks and balances.
And offering a bribe or accepting a bribe is a felony that the city takes seriously and would prosecute. Would that be a federal offense if it's federal monies?
It could be either federal or state.
So it's a serious offense that has dire consequences for anyone involved on either side, and we don't tolerate that. And as Chairman Sinanian said, if anyone thinks that there has been untoward relationship, money, services, value, anything of value offered, please let us know. Is there a hotline? Is there a confidential hotline that they can?
There is, and unfortunately, I don't remember the number
Okay,
right
you
now,
can-
but
I
we
mean,
do
you
have
can-
a Section 8 fraud hotline,
Yeah,
and that would be fraud for both program participants or any other type of fraud related to the Section 8 program that they can call.
And by the way, I know personally an elected official in the city of Glendale who's actually sitting around this table, whose grandmother was on the waiting list and died waiting to get Section 8 housing. So this is, I mean,
My dad.
it's just the reality of,
My dad too.
your dad did too, but
93 years
also
old.
did, yeah, another person here. So, yes, Mr. Carpetian.
Is the list open for people to register now?
No.
Okay.
No,
How
it's
long
been
has
closed.
it been closed?
2001.
Okay, since
was when it was
2001, the list was closed. So the chances of somebody getting on that list and getting a Section 8 ahead of someone else there's no chance.
No.
I mean, even if they moved here 5 years ago, because I hear the same stories, that they got here 5 years ago, 2 years ago, they paid somebody, and somebody did something, and they got Section 8, and we didn't. But if the list is closed and you can't even register, how are you going to get on that list and get a Section 8 voucher? I mean, it's just, we don't know how to clarify this thing so it won't come back over and over and over again, but it's very tough. So since 2001, the list was closed.
Yes.
It's been closed.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Thank
it gets exacerbated, especially during election season,
Yeah.
when you have a candidate who's promising to pass out Section 8 vouchers like it's candy. They get elected, so this is what the result that we're...
But you make the important point is that every time we hear of something or someone comes to us and tells us something, we'll ask right away, who is that person? What is that name of that person? We'll verify it. And sometimes they'll give it to us, sometimes, well, I don't want to bother. Well, then if you don't want to bother, then you can't allow us to investigate it. Bribes and things like that. We've identified a couple of shops that have been operating, making it, offering to fill out Section 8 applications in other agencies and charging a fee for it when it's free. You shouldn't have to charge. So we investigate everything and look into it. If someone wants to be confidential with their reporting, they have every right to be, and we'll allow that to happen. We'll have an investigator that will meet with them and meet in confidence with them and investigate.
Okay, thank you. If you'll attend to Madam Karakhanyan, that'll be great. We have the next speaker, Anahit Davtian. Hello.
I'm Anahit Davtian, and I'd like to ask you to speak in Armenian. Can
Please, go ahead.
Okay, դա հարցը մոտավորապես նույնն է, Section 8-ի հետ կապված, 17 տարի հերթի մեջ ենք, ոչ մի ինֆորմացիա on-line չկա, որը շատ նեղացնում է եւ կարծես տպավորություն է ստեղծում, որ մաքուր չի աշխատանքը, երբեք ոչ մի ինֆորմացիա չեն տալիս, որտեղ է մեր հերթը, ինչ սպասելիքներ ունենք, ոնց է ինչ առաջ գնում։ Ձեր հաղորդումներից, պարոն Սինանյան, լսում ենք, որ ասում եք 165 տեղադրված, բայց մենք ոչ մի կերպ չենք իմացել դրանց մասին։ Լսում ենք, որ դուք ինչ-որ affordable այդ նոր կառուցվող շենքերում բնակարաններ եք հատկացնել ցածր եկամուտ ունեցողներին, բայց մենք դրա մասին ինֆորմացիա չենք ունեցել։ Ոնց է լինում, որ մենք չենք մասնակցում այդ մրցակցությանը։ Եվ եղել եմ երևի մի 5-6 ամիս առաջ պարոն Կարպետյանի մոտ խնդրել եմ նորից, որ ցուցադրություն լինի on-line, խոստացավ, որ ինձ կզանգի աշխատողը, բայց չի զանգել։ Դրանք են հարցերը, որ պատասխանները չկան։ 17 տարի հերթի մեջ եմ եւ ամեն անգամ ասվում է, որ մեծահասակների համար է, ուրեմն Section 8-ը հայտարարեք, որ մեծահասակների համար է, ընտանիքների համար չի։ Եփետ մեր համար ավելի հեշտ կլինի իմանանք, որ պիտի երբ որ ընտանիք չունենանք, միայնակ մնանք, նոր գանք դիմենք Section 8-ին։ Դուք չափանիշ եք դրել, կարծես դա միայնակ մարդկանց համար է, ուրեմն այդպես հայտարարեք։ Սպասելն ավելի վատ է, երբ որ սպասում ես։ Մի խոսքով, struggling ենք անում ապրելով, դժվարություններով ու հույսով, որ արդար երկիր ենք եկել ու արդարություն ենք ուզում ենք, որ այդ արդարությունը լինի։ Որ տեսնենք այդ արդարությունը, ես չեմ ասում արդարություն չկա, բայց չենք տեսնում։ Դրեք փարկացու, on-line ամեն ինչը կա, ինչու չի դրվում, ինչա Section 8-ը բացում ենք դատարկ list, ոչ մի բան չկա։ Շնորհակալություն, այդքանը։
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I just wanted to address the two young ladies that just spoke. The Housing Rights Center, I think I referred a half dozen people to the Housing Rights Center. Out of the half dozen people, 5 had great success. The last person I referred to the Housing Rights Center they prevented an eviction. So they're fantastic, and I really recommend giving them a call. They'll outline specific steps, and they're amazingly helpful. So.
Okay, yeah. Can I, Mr. Karpetian, just give me an opportunity to ask Mr. Zovak, if you don't mind, a question?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
Mr. Zovak, can you speak about the preference points and how that works? What are the specific 5 points that make up the ultimately the points that give you your status in the waiting list?
Maybe we can make this part of the discussion very brief.
Well, how so? Because the question was asked in
I
Armenian.
understand, but we've had a lot of questions back and forth. It starts to become a discussion at some point.
Oh.
And that's my concern, so.
Very
Right,
well.
and I'm
let's make-
struggling to remember all 5.
I can help you out if you want.
Me too.
And I do want to announce the fraud hotline number, if I could, 818-548-6442 for that number.
So let me narrow it down for you and make this discussion shorter then. Is being single a priority point in our waiting list structure? So is it one of the
Single
5
alone,
points?
no. Single, senior,
Single,
yes.
Senior.
Disabled,
Disabled.
Correct.
Glendale
living in
resident.
Glendale, and low
Correct.
income.
Extremely low income.
Single,
veteran.
being single, senior, is that 1 point or 2 points
It's
actually?
1 point. Senior
1 point.
62 is 1
Okay,
point.
and the question I think posed was, well, is this waiting list only for single people or seniors? And it's not. It's just that if you have that, it puts you ahead of everyone else. Correct?
Correct.
And that's why those people who are single seniors, therefore in more need than those that are not single seniors, are given priority.
Right. You're looking at one source of income typically, with a cap on the income being earned.
And just last question from me. Is there any information on Section 8? If an individual wants to check their status, or is there anything available online? And if not, why?
No, there's nothing available online. We have not gone through the process of trying to digitize the Section 8 waiting list, and a lot of it is because what we had discussed earlier. It's just, it moves on a daily basis, and to publish something like that and to one day have someone see on position 1,000 and the next day on position 1,500 would really cause quite a bit of concern and confusion. We'd rather that the applicants come in and speak to us. If they insist on having a number, we'll let them know, but we do it with a lot of caution that this number may not be good as much as an hour from now after we give it to you because of changes. It's not really something you could rely on. It might give you an indication, well, maybe in the next 2 years, possibly, but it doesn't give you any smaller window that people really want to hear.
Right. Mr. Garpetti?
Just one quick question. The 5-point system, who sets those? Who dictates those? Is it
Council
the
of
state?
2001, when they established the opening up of the Section 8 waiting list at that time, could have been, at that time, it could have been the Council of 2000 in anticipation of 2001. They established those preferences.
Oh, they established it, so it's not mandated by state. Council established that 5%.
City Council, and I should say the Housing Authority, established those preferences at that time.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
So the federal government doesn't have anything to do with the 5 points?
No, those are all local preferences that the Housing Authority had some leeway in trying to establish, and at that time they did.
Okay,
So if we were ever able to open up the waiting list in the future, one of the questions we'd be coming back to the Housing Authority at that time would be, what, if any, type of preferences would you want to try and provide? And having that discussion.
I think we're...
That are allowed by HUD to have.
Yeah. I think we're... When was our last housing rights or low-income housing public meeting or forum or workshop that we had?
I want to say we had one about 2 months ago in the Edison Pacific Library.
Let's organize one ASAP. Apparently, we need to have one more, or two more, three more.
I'll speak to the CDBG staff who's in charge of the housing rights contract about that.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Can it be done here? Can it be done agendas on our agenda, so it would be held here? So if you need any questions from our city attorneys or city managers, the meeting, the community meeting, could it be part of our agenda? Agenda is the items who will come back here and say these are the items that we can discuss, because we can't discuss everything here tonight because it's not agendized. I understand that, but can we agendize it and also notify the public to come over here and find out exactly what is it that they can ask questions as well, and there are 10 people answering instead of, because I went to the community meetings, sometimes it's very difficult because there's only 1 or 2 staff over there, and it's good, but I think it would be more efficient here if we can host that here.
I remember when I had just gotten elected, we organized 3 community meetings, one after the other, and shockingly, each one of them, each consecutive one had more and more people show up. And we broke them up into groups. We broke them according to their language groups. I remember, we went out of our way to inform them as much as we could. And by all means, let's do more of that, because apparently we're not, I don't know, we need to do more, but I like the idea. Let's do it here. Let's have our housing staff give a full report on how this works, so that the public can attend and can listen and get informed from authorable sources, not someone on TV just yapping away and saying whatever comes to their mind.
So just to clarify, that's different than those 3 meetings,
Right.
kind of a Housing 101, I think is what we were nicknamed for it at that time, is different than the meeting I had just referenced about 2 or 3 months ago at Edison Pacific. That was strictly Housing Rights Center, tenant-landlord relationships. Those other meetings from
Were
4 years ago were more general housing issues.
Right.
Across the spectrum of anything that we can think of that people might be interested in.
Maybe we can do a combination of the two. We'll figure it out.
My only concern is that, didn't you have like 200 or 300 people at a couple of those meetings?
What's that? I'm
Chair
sorry.
Sinani, weren't there like 200 or 300 people at?
Oh, they were,
couple of
each one
those?
of them, I remember back then, Councilmember Najarian came to those meetings too. I mean, I asked for those meetings, and he remembers it was so odd, not odd, but just intense to see that. Usually you have 3 meetings on the same subject matter. Each consecutive one has less and less people show up. With each consecutive meeting, more and more people showed up, which shows obviously how much need for information there is out there. That's it. Anything else on the agenda? Move to adjourn?
No, mute to
Oh,
recess.
yes. I'm sorry. So let's.
You must recess.
Recess. And then Mr. Kazakian needs to read the council closed session as well.
Are we going to go back here, or are we going to wait until the closed
If
session?
if we can go back it just depends if the 4 council members are still going to be here this evening, so, because we'll need to report on both items. If all 4 of you are going to be here, then we can do both.
I intend
We
to
can
be
do
here.
both reporting in the evening. That's fine. So we'll go over there once
Okay,
you
so
get
let's
through the council.
recess the housing meeting right now.